Hello, dear friends. Welcome to Aspire 32. And today we have a very important podcast, which is different than usual podcast I do for the undergraduates. And this podcast is for postgraduates who are done with their MDS in oral pathology. And for this, we have Dr. Deepak with me, and he completed his UG from Ambedkar Dental College. Then he completed his undergraduation from Ambedkar Dental College, Bangalore. Then he did his post graduation from the Bagalkot, and then he did his fellowship and postgraduate diploma in forensic SDM, followed by the Ennapoya. And it is a proud privilege to have him on this Aspire 32 to guide the oral pathologist and maybe in general, because the forensic odontology is something which many people aspire to do. And I thought, when I know someone who is excelled so much in this field after his MDS in oral pathology, then why not have a podcast? So welcome, Dr. Deepak. It's a pleasure to have you on Aspire 32.
Good evening, sir. Thank you. It's an honor being on podcast, especially with you. I've been following you right from my undergraduate days. Those days we had Orkut, so you had used to share a lot of entrance material. Those days it was cassette. So you used to share from those days. I'm following you. So it's an honor and a great privilege to be on podcast.
Great. Because see, there are many people who have asked me on my YouTube channel. Many people commented also that they want to know what they can do after oral pathology. And I am from a clinical branch. Uh, Oral pathology, although is non-clinical, but when it comes to practice, I'm sure everybody is equal and everybody is practicing everything in dentistry. So I'm sure, I can see a nice background in your own clinic. I will be happy that you discuss regarding all the opportunities which anybody can have, not very specific to oral pathologist. So my first question is: once you finished your post graduation oral pathology, what led you to decide that, okay, I will do a forensic, and what was the interest which drive you towards the fellowship and the postgraduate diploma?
So to begin with, I was by chance into oral pathology, not by choice. So when I took up the specialty of oral pathology in my entrance exam, so those days it was more of a career aspect because there were a lot of job opportunities for public health dentists and oral pathologists those days. But I was good at clinical, and most of my undergraduate teachers said, like, why did you take up oral pathology? Could have taken up better. In fact, my undergraduate days, it was diagnosing a slide outside the microscope, and there was I was not aware of the scope of oral pathology and how it will be in the career aspects. I was fortunate enough to be guided under legendary guides in Bagalkot. So first 6 months, again, there was a lot of confusion. Everything looks pink and blue. What is this? And so to kindle the interest in forensic pathology, I still remember it was Puja Day in my first year of my oral pathology. We got a case from Banati jurisdiction of Bagalkot saying that there was a sexual assault and victim has been killed in a brutal way. And the face was mutilated, and we need an identification whether it was a sexual assault case and who has done and how to go ahead with it. So that's when my guide called me up and I said, like, anyway, right from beginning, I used to, whenever they asked me to search for dissertation topics, I used to go ahead with forensic odontology topics. But anyway, because he knew that I had some interest and I had some basic training in white mark analysis and age estimation, he said, go ahead with the case and let me know what has to be done. So that was my first case in my postgraduate days, where I went, like, where I could record the case details and how it actually does, like, whatever. See, in Indian scenario, even though we have laws and regulations, like how it has to be done, but unfortunately, when it comes to the investigations, where a chief investigation officer, I could be from police side, we don't follow the protocols. But once the case reaches on the other hand, for the judiciary system, then we panic because we don't have what do you call, a protocol way of registering the case. So that's when it stuck in my mind, and I said, like, okay, we have to be competent enough to educate the police as well as educate us before presenting a case. Because once you stand in the box for a trials, They'll ask you the questions. The defense lawyer is always trying to save his client and ask all sorts of questions like, is it the crime? Is it a human bite? How sure are you the bite mark was done by a human being? It could be an animal bite mark. Or how sure are you, how competent your reports are to prove that the accused is guilty? So when it comes to this, it's more of a scientific way of you defending yourself in the court of law. Because finally, when you pen down, that's what I was taught. When you pen down, your report is viable because immediately we did investigation in 2011. Finally, the trial came up in 2015, and the verdict came up in 2017. So there's so much of lag phase. So we are humans. We don't remember what has happened on that day unless until it has been documented well. And by the time it reaches the final arguments, we would have forgotten about the case unless until it's been documented well. So finally, what I realized in my first case is, no, I need to undergo proper training in forensic odontology if I had to aspire the career in it. See, one thing honestly to admit is forensic odontology, if you take it as a passion, it's well and good, but monetary gains from forensic odontology is merely less. So it is not like a clinical branch like endodontics or prosthodontics. You place an implant, you do a canal, you get immediate thing. It's more of your passion-driven subject, forensic odontology, because the remuneration, the earning part of it is merely low, merely less when compared to. See, as such, it's an infantile subject in a country like India.
Yes.
Although DCI has sorted well for an undergraduate course, it has to be taught by oral medicine and oral pathology faculty, and in postgraduate curriculum, it comes under oral pathology. But unfortunately, this in my case, what happened even till date, what I face is, for me, it is easy to convince the lawmakers and policymakers, but unfortunately, it has become difficult to convince my own fraternity people. In fact, the head of the institution of some institute is not easily acceptable about the forensic odontology. An IAS officer or an IPS officer is readily acceptable and will take my opinion. In fact, every alternative months, I conducted training for police training and judiciary people about the aspects of forensic odontology, limits and advantages of having the forensic odontology opinion. But unfortunately, our own fraternity people, it's been difficult. Now, moving on to training. See, the curriculum says oral pathology, microbiology, and forensic odontology. We have a basic subject itself in undergraduate and postgraduate syllabus, but it is like tell, do, show technique. So unless until you do it on something, it's not that easy to work on a live cases. Either it could be a bite mark, or it could be a age estimation, or it could be a race identification. So what I did immediately after my post-graduation, I got enrolled in apprenticeship program. That time it was run under Dr. Ashit sir in SDM. It was a 1-week contact program just to sensitize about the legal aspects, about the techniques and modalities of forensic odontology. After my apprenticeship, I immediately joined for a fellowship 1-year contact program course, and immediately that said after that I felt like, okay, just not knowing head and neck osteology and head and neck techniques will not help me in solving the forensic odontology courses. Then I myself enrolled in a 1-year PG diploma program which teaches in detail about forensic anthropology, odontology. See, basically it's if pelvic is missing for age estimation or sex determination, we jump into mandible. If mandible is missing, we need a skull. And in forensic cases, we don't get an intact skeleton or intact body. It's always a mutilated body fragments we get. So the scope is vast and the training is limited. So when the training is limited, even though we can't change the statutory bodies like DCI or IQHS. So it is, if you have an interest in passion-driven thing in forensic odontology, there are so many courses run in India, so you can enroll itself.
Of course, what you mentioned is in SDM, and then you also have a postgraduate diploma. Do you have any diploma in any other colleges apart from, you did from Ennapoya? Do you have any other college apart from Ennapoya where people can do this postgraduate diploma?
Unfortunately, no, sir, in India. So only it's in a medical college they run this course. It's not even in a dental college. Okay. This all started in medical college when they had, in 2010, there was an Airbus crash of Saudi Arabia in landing in Mangalore. So that's when they realized the importance of head and neck investigations in forensic. The madam, the head of the department, she thought it's more important in a scenario like India. We don't have anti-mortem records. It's only on post-mortem profiling we identify the cases. From then onwards, she started forensic odontology courses. We have forensic medicine and forensic anthropology PG diplomas. Unfortunately, we don't have any courses in forensic odontology in India.
So that is the only place where you can enroll in this actually PG diploma.
But there are like hands-on courses and certificate courses run across the country. We have one in Manipal, we have one in Maharashtra IDA runs, and it's like your rotary endodontics hands-on courses. It's much similar to it, with 1 week contact programs, 1 year scheduling. But it will help you to sensitize as a forensic odontologist. But to do case things, it would be you'll lack limited, like you'll have a limited experience.
Yes, but what I'm wondering is, will by doing a certification course of 1 year, you see, you have done a fellowship for a PG diploma for 1 year. If you do it for 1 week and all, will government accept your decisions, or is there a criteria which is set by the government that if somebody has to give opinion regarding a case, he has to have this degrees? Do you have something like that?
Okay. So by default, all BDS graduates can be an expert opinion in forensic odontology. Like how all BDS graduates are entitled to do all cavity cutting and restorations practice. So all of us are entitled to be an expert witness in the court of law. So that's what the government says. So coming on to the second part, your opinion, how competent are you, and how your opinion is scientifically based. So when I go to give my expert opinion into the judicial system, when the trial runs, so first most questions they ask is, for example, when you take up an age estimation, we would have calculated the age with some specific formulas. The first question our opponent lawyer asks us, is it a Indian formula, or was the study done in India? And how shall you, like, what is the drawback of this method? So if you are competent enough to explain the answers, so then it's well and good. So these certificate courses and these 1 year fellowship courses would help you to sensitize, but simultaneously the depth of the knowledge will be limited, definitely. So government do accept it, because government accepts any BDS graduate. And in fact, if you have done something much more than a BDS graduate, then definitely it's helpful. But unfortunately, but what matters is like how scientifically your report is validated. So what you pen down, if it is validated, then definitely court of law will accept.
And once you do the PG diploma, do you have any other degree apart from PG diploma in this, or is it the last degree which is available in India?
No, sir. We have an MSc in forensic odontology, which is done in JSS University. And I know a couple of them, after completing MSc in forensic odontology, they have been appointed in various dental colleges. Especially the deemed universities are accepting us, because most of them, either for NAC or they want institutions distinctiveness. So, and this is in a very infantile branch, and DC has still not made a separate branch. So, but there is no harm in having a separate specialty. So at the institute level, so few of the deemed universities, to my knowledge, have appointed PG diploma graduates as well as MSc forensic odontology graduates as a full-time faculty.
Okay. And apart from the this 1 year PG diploma, is it a full-time or it's a part-time course? What you have to appear?
It's a 3 months contact program. So every 3 months once you have to be there. It's like you're doing your PhD. Or you have some credit hours and with an assignment. So every 3 months once you'll be staying for 10 to 15 days there, finishing your coursework and coming back.
Okay. And how much these short-term course and this PG diploma, how much do they generally cost for someone?
So this fellowship courses and certificate courses range from a range of 10,000 to 35 to 40,000. And PG diploma is somewhere between 40 to 50,000. And MSc forensic odontology, which is run by few universities, deemed universities, ranges between 2 to 2.5 lakhs per annum.
And do they provide any stipend for the students?
No, sir. It's as good as any other branches.
Yes. What about the opportunities after doing a forensic odontology abroad? Do you have any scope to move ahead apart from, because I'm sure in foreign countries this may be really well-established branch. Do you have any idea regarding the out of India opportunities?
Sir, Western countries, we can go and get our degrees done, but we can't work there. So I know a couple of them who are doing after their undergraduation, finishing their undergraduation in India and doing their masters. For example, University of Dundee provides a very well advanced forensic odontology MSc course, but it's a 2-year course. After your course, you're entitled to move back. They will not retain you for work purpose unless until you enroll for a PhD program. After your PhD program, you have to find other job opportunities. But as such, in forensic ontology, there are no job opportunities in Western countries. You can go get trained and come back to India, but settling there for job perspectives, it's not this.
So, Dr. Deepak, once you have this all the credentials, you said you can find opportunities in solving the cases and all. But how will you do that? Do you have to develop contacts, or is there any government authority where you have to go and submit the documents, your credentials? How does it go? How do you plan once you have this degree?
So I'll just give you an example. Like, see, any police station will have something called as police informers. And these police informers, they don't have any degrees or they don't have any qualification. They're just that they're very keen on masterminds to know who is the culprit. So they just keep informing. So, but their opinion or their information has been considered in the thing. Even same thing in our judicial system in India. So any case solving techniques, if it is scientifically proven, the court of law will accept. So to that matter, the standing case for us till date is a Nirbhaya's case. And the entire country knows about Nirbhaya's case. Only in Nirbhaya's case, they gave an equal opportunity to forensic ontology. The final verdict says DNA, sperm analysis, and the forensic ontology, based on the forensic ontology reports, the final verdict was given. So that brings to that brought forensic ontology in limelight, thanks to Dr. Ashit sir, who made this possible. And moving on to how we, it's as good as how you market your practice. So once you have a valid degree and once you are confident enough, if you're not confident enough, do not try this part, because you're something playing with someone's life and life questions. Because if you accuse or not accused, then it becomes, for example, I get common cases of age estimation for a child labor. And according to our IPC, below 14 years is considered to be a child labor. And that is a very crucial thing, which method you employ and what is the error rate and how sensitive is the method. So based on these techniques, what we follow, it is someone's life which is going to be dependent on. Once you have acquired data, once you are very thorough with your knowledge and once you have an acquired degree, what I did in my case was, I first gave a presentation for judicial system. I approached the bar council. That was pretty easy. Approaching the police was difficult because they have their own, every police, what do you call it, stations or judiciaries, they have their own method of investigating the case. We call a chief investigative officer or a IO, most common man says is IO. This investigating officer, that he or she will have their own methodology. Unless until we convince them, we go and speak to them, we go and explain them how easier or how non-invasive is it and how scientifically validated is it to have a forensic ontology part of investigation. So then I approached zone-wise DCPs. So few zone-wise DCPs were very cooperative because, and one zone-wise DCP, our common friend Pavitra ma'am, she gave a contact. So it was easy for like us to, like, once we approach DCPs and their subordinates will get. So what I did is from then on, every 2 months once, every 3 months once, I started brushing them up. So you keep telling, you keep bugging them. No, we can do all this. And next thing what I did is I started reading newspapers. If there is any burglary, if there is any accident, if there is any unidentified cases, I used to approach the jurisdiction police station and I used to tell them, I can give a valid opinion on this. Kindly consider my opinion. So 2 to 3 years it became like this, and now it is easier for me. They approach me. So initially 2 to 3 years case building was a difficult task. So I used to read newspapers. I used to watch televisions or any information. I used to go to the nearby police stations. I used to convince them. No, my opinion, I can sort an opinion in this case and it will be definitely helpful for you. And then they used to come. Now it is prospective. Definitely they approach us if there is any cases, and it is easygoing process. So building up is as good as how you build up your practice. 2 to 3 years of your hard work goes in publicity of your own work, and how it is easier. It might sound very, for a few, it might sound easy, but contacting the higher authorities is
very difficult.
Yes. Very difficult.
Yeah.
And when I started doing, fortunately for him, or fortunately for me, I was working with the Central Government Institute. Since I was having the tag of a Central Government Institute, so people accepting me was easier. So that's when the case started building up. Because there I used to solve the cases of, I used to receive a lot of cases of pregnant women less than 18 years. So it is illegal in India. So those cases, and in those cases, we can't, in a pregnant female, we can't use any radiographic techniques. And we should be very careful because most of the adolescent age estimation is to the radiographic techniques. So keeping all that in mind when we work, definitely cases will flow in.
Yeah.
So it matters how you approach it.
That's really amazing, Dr. Deepak, and I'm happy to hear that you have struggled so much to establish, and then now people seek you for the information. What else do you have any other information to share regarding this branch?
So we have a dignity in life. When the body had a name and when we had a life, so we had some dignity, and the same dignity has to be transferred when the patient's death, when the person's death. And the moment you see someone is dead, you can't handle the body. So that's when our humanitarian reasons comes a pitch in. So that's when I got an opportunity to get associated with Air Force, our Air Force, Indian Air Force. So there, luckily, they were charting a course called aviation dentistry. So these aviation dentistry only deals with training of those in office people about what are could be a paraodontology or in space, what kind of circumstances they faces, all these things. And I came to the part where if you lose a person in an air force, how are you going to detect that? So they had no other answer for it. Then we devised something called as disaster victim. It was there in other countries, but unfortunately in India, we have a disaster management force, or especially in COVID time, you might have heard about cases, Disaster Management Act. You have been filed because.
Yes.
But we have a Disaster Management Act and we have a disaster management team. But unfortunately, we don't have something called a disaster management system or a disaster victim identification. So that's when I pitched into this Air Force and I became a visiting faculty for them to teach disaster victim identification, how a DVI process, and we actually conduct a small team of us. We conduct a biannual program for them, with the simulators, how in field work, how it is done, and once how the body is recovered from the field, how it could be from mapping, sketching, it could be cordoning, and recovery of the body, right from there till the chain of custody, all scientific events. And once it comes to the postmortem lab, and what sequence of events will take care, and how an identification is done, we teach them. And once that is done, we grade them. And it is something nice to interact with the army people. So they are the first line of people when compared to the work in countries. So it is nice to teach them, and fortunate enough to that they accepted the plan, and it is ongoing plan. So there are opportunities. That's what I said. If you start exploring, you start getting in many opportunities. Only thing is, to explore the opportunities, you should be well trained, well equipped, and the knowledge should be up to date. If these three things are at your corner, then definitely opportunity starts falling.
Great. So we did cover the forensic odontology in depth. I'm sure you may be knowing about other opportunities after oral pathology. What else do you suggest the postgraduate students as an option after the post graduation? Maybe Indian, or maybe the abroad opportunities.
So I repeatedly keep saying that forensic odontology is passion driven. It has less money. So to live our existence, we need money. For that, we need to explore other arenas too. Of course, my passion was towards forensic odontology. I tend to do a lot of work. But as an oral pathology graduate, what I hear to recent graduates of postgraduates of oral pathology, there are no job opportunities. Senior staff कुछ नहीं किया हम लोगों के लिए, and there is no. And all these aspects are only through academic jobs. I really don't understand. We are trained specialists, and there are hell a lot of opportunities for us. And we think of sitting as a senior lecturer or an assistant professor in a dental colleges and wasting. I would say it is a wasting as a time, because if you get an opportunity, definitely go on. That is best. If you don't get an opportunity, there are other arenas to explore. For example, in 2013, as soon as I finished oral pathology, I had a postgraduate teacher in oral surgery called Satyajit sir. And I was still waiting for my results. And he called me to his hospital. He works in Karod Hospital. He called me to the hospital. He's like, look, there is one growth in the maxilla. And he used to give a kidwai. And that fellow is not there. He's gone for some. Can you see it? For me, it was like, oh, I can do it, sir, but I don't have any pathology. See, getting an opportunity is difficult. Try doing something. So he gave me a biopsy. Somehow got into private lab, got it processed, and fortunate enough that first case was something which was out of the box. And I gave him thing, and he's like, why don't you regularly get associated with us? So as a consultant. So that's when the private practice of oral pathology started. So even then, it was again the same thing, sir, marketing. So what I did is I used the platforms like IDEA platforms, and I used the platforms of private contacts. I used to call in fact, I've gone to clinics and waited for 2 to 3 hours to speak to a consultant doctor. I used to speak them. I used to give a small presentation. See, it's just not root canal and prosthodontics. You might be saving a patient from a life-threatening complications or a life-threatening diseases. It could be lichen planus. If you just treat lichen planus wisely, the lifestyle of a patient improves to a greater extent. So that's when I started going and requesting for them a small biopsy, and it would cost not more than ₹1,000 for a patient, but it would have a great impact on the patient's quality of life. That's when I explored oral pathology private practice. God willing, till date, every month I receive an average cases of 20 to 25 cases per month, and that's quite when compared to even most of the private dental colleges receive the same amount of cases. And I get second referral from most of my friends' clinic for oral pathology consultations. That's what, sir. If you have a good knowledge and you are in a position to convince them that you're doing something right, the private practice of oral pathology is one opportunity, and it has good money also, and you'll get a good name also. Yeah. Second thing is, sir, when I see there are so many arenas. For example, when you come to teaching, for example, oral pathologists are the one who have a basic in-depth knowledge about each disease process. So a couple of my friends are involved in animations. So we are in an area of artificial learning or artificial systems are there. So they have been paid really good money. They have learned animations and they're doing videos on pathological manifestation, the pathological aspect for student learning mechanisms. So that is one. And next thing is, most of my friends are into the research. It could be a collaborative research. For ICMR has the post, for example, ICMR. Or
this is a very important aspect, Dr. Deepak, because I know research. Clinical people may not be interested a lot in, especially in the dental clinicians, they won't be interested in research, but research is something which is also passion driven, as you have passion for the forensic dentistry. And I'm happy that you are sharing all the information about this research. Yeah, please go ahead. Please speak about the research after maybe for everyone. Yes.
Research. Recently there were an ICMR post called for dental. ICMR posts are there, and apart from that, you get a lot of grants. Only thing is, there is National Data Science Project which grants up to ₹1 crore for an individual dentist. You don't need to have any affiliations. It's just that I have a good friend of mine who's taken a grant up to ₹1 crore, and he'll be given a stipend of ₹25,000 per month apart from the grant. And that's not like you, unless until you explore, or if you have self-driven passion towards the research, you definitely. But oral pathology as such, you have a lot of theoretical subjects, and you would have done a lot of studies, and you're exposed to you're made to read so many. Unlike your clinical branches, you are always doing on models or the patients. It's all more of a technical work. Yes. So, but fortunate enough, we have a lot of reading thing. You might have read a lot of publications. So at least you have a structured research program running in your mind. If you explore, definitely there are a lot of funding agencies, a lot of especially, sir, this is an era where most of the institutions are going for NAC. And NAC's major criteria is your institute should have a research collaborations. Yes. And this is where an oral pathologist can fit in. So definitely research. And next thing is, sir, as oral cancer is a major capital in India, we get to see a lot of cases. But where, what, when is different. See, when I interact with head and neck surgeons, unfortunately, most of them don't know there's terminology called as potentially malignant disorders. So if you go and educate them, there is something called as potentially malignant disorders. We can intervene, we can stop for the progression of oral malignancies. Then I have a friend myself, and I am also a consultant, and one of my good friends, they are in leading onco institutes in Bangalore who are working as a consultant for potentially malignant disorders. And trust me, the payment is really good. So when compared to the private institutions, the payment what you get there is much better. The only thing is you should be trained. Again, training. So if you're not good at oncopathology, if you're not good at potential and malignant disorders, there are centers like HCG, there are centers, private centers who definitely train you well in reporting oncopathology. Obviously, you have to invest more after your postgraduate. See, the mindset of most of the youngsters is once you are done with PG in MBS, it's done.
They have to get everything.
That's done.
Yeah, that doesn't happen. True.
That obviously that definitely doesn't happen. Oral pathology would be just a baseline for you to build up foundation courses. So you have lot many. If you want to explore lot many opportunities, you should be exposed yourself to learn lot many aspects. If you're not in a position to learn lot many aspects, then definitely you have to cribbing at yourself that there is no opportunity. There is no opportunities. Onco is one of the opportunities in capital cities like India. Sorry, capital cities like Bangalore. You have lot many opportunities, especially in a tertiary referral centers. You have a very good scope of reporting these cases. But unfortunately, most of them are not exploring it. See, that's the reason, sir, most of the postgraduates' mindset is an academic job. If you think outside the academic job, there are a lot of opportunities.
Sure. And it's really amazing that you have given them so many thought about various opportunities. I'm sure this podcast will be definitely helpful to them. This podcast is obviously not to demotivate that there are no opportunities or anything related to that, but just to educate people, because people like you have so much of knowledge and experience, and I'm sure that with those experiences people can really benefit, not just oral pathologists, but of course these type of decisions has to be taken by all the branches. Since we have covered the majority of the options, do you know any of your friend after your oral pathology in MDS, have they done anything different apart from what we have mentioned abroad?
Sir, I have like a former colleague of mine. In fact, I didn't speak about that opportunities. After your MDS oral pathology, see, in Western countries, they look the pathology in a different way. They have something called as oral biology sciences or oral life sciences. So you definitely can get enrolled for a sponsored PhD programs. There are a lot many, but only thing is for that, your CV should be strong in India. Unless until you make your CV, unless until you build your own CV, here getting an opportunity in Western countries is very much difficult. So, but definitely there are countries like a friend of mine who's working in Boston University. She's been funded for a 5-year program, and definitely it is a good opportunity. Her PhD has been done, and she's getting trained at at a premier institute. Definitely, there are funded PhD programs, and apart from that, you can enroll yourself for MSc programs in many universities for oral biology courses or oral oncology courses. There, it is more streamlined. It is not like vast, like how we have in India, like oral pathology. Oral mucosal pathology is dealt definitely. Inflammatory pathologists are dealt. Infectious diseases are dealt separately. And oncopathologists altogether are different services. The base, see, you are, as a postgraduate, you know your interest. And it could be a oral biology, basic life sciences, or it could be a oncopathology. Based on the interest you have developed, you can definitely go for a programs abroad, which suits for your mindset. So there are opportunities, especially at least US a plethora of opportunities in countries like US for your PhD programs as well as for the master programs after your MDs. For that, again, as I said, your CV has to be really strong in English.
Thank you, Dr. Deepak. And I'm really happy that this podcast is going to benefit people with so many information regarding various options after their oral pathology. At the end, I want you to give a concluding message to all the postgraduates or even the clinicians who are done with the MDS oral pathology, or anyone who is interested in forensic or all the opportunities what you mentioned.
So leading cosmetic dentist in India is an oral pathologist. In Bangalore, a leading implantologist is an oral pathologist. It's not stopped them from learning from where they have come from. See, definitely oral pathology, by doing PG in oral pathology, you have a vast idea about the head and neck, it could be anatomy, it could be embryological details, or it could be a pathological details. You'll have a vast idea. So when you have when you have specialized in a vast idea, so kindly choose what fits you. You want to be a general practitioner, kindly go ahead. because there is no one stopping. You want to be an academician, if you get an opportunity, definitely join a college. Or if not, do not, if you don't either find an opportunity, you have a private oral pathology practice, kindly go ahead. Only thing is, it depends upon how you market yourself in the society. Kindly go and speak to your friends. Kindly tell them, just do not show. Because I had a case recently last week. It was an infected tooth and it was grade 3 mobile and they have done attempted a root canal, but it was not taking up. There was a they thought it's a periapical granuloma cyst, periapical granuloma cyst. But when they removed and gave it was an ameloblastoma originating in that. So they gave for histopathological examination, I said ameloblastoma, they did a good resection and they saved much of the cosmetic disfigurement of a patient. Yeah. So you try to speak to your fellow colleagues and general practitioners that instead of they would be doing they would not be aware or they would not be having that kind of referral system in their clinic. Kindly go and request them that you share your biopsy specimens, start with the minimal consultation fees, then definitely once it picks up, then you can definitely go on a higher range. So that is private practice in oral pathology, and you can go as a consultant for most of the oromucosal pathologists, and I'm doing it, definitely go. And if you're choosing forensic odontology as a specialty, it's a passion-driven thing again. And wisely join the courses and wisely choose the courses. If you are in doubt, kindly contact your seniors who have been established in forensic odontology or who are doing well. And finally, what I would say is you read something, you try to adapt for your thing. For example, I spoke about animation. When you speak animation and dentistry, it sounds completely different entities. But when you say that, how can I adapt animation towards oral pathology or dentistry, definitely you have much more opportunities. You can explore the options with research. If you have any doubts with research collaboration, kindly contact me. I can give you good contacts for if you're keenly interested on research opportunities. Definitely, that is the way funding agencies give a lot of grants and you can explore them. And for general dentists and general practitioners or clinical practitioners, kindly, when someone approaches you for the specimens or something, kindly encourage, because if that referral system develops and you're benefiting your own patients and you're benefiting the own society, definitely you are saving the patient's life, which might be a danger on a long run. So that definitely helps.
That was amazing, and thank you, Dr. Deepak, once again for giving us all the information regarding the opportunities after MDS oral pathology. I thank you once again for your time, and it was great to have you on Aspire 32. Bye for now.